Hello everybody, it's the June 2024 garden update. So things are just doing their thing here. There's some wildlife right there showing off. Daylilies have finished. I'll have to clean that up a little bit. All this stuff here, the Turk's cap is growing well. Hadn't started blooming yet, but don't suspect it'll be long. First of the month we had a devastating hailstorm, so that's why everything's looking a little rough. I will do a full video on that later on, just kind of a weekly update thing I'm working on right now. But the herbs are still here doing their thing. You can hear the sounds of summer are beginning. The hollyhocks are about finished up, but they're doing quite well, as well as the mosquito plants. They're still recovering from the hailstorm, so that's why they're looking a little brown here and there. Here's the flower bed by the lean-to starting to put on some blooms again, so that's looking pretty sharp. And then all here, we're in recovery mode from the hailstorm still, so they're coming back along. Here's the ground cover, still doing its thing. AC's working well. All along there, doing pretty well. So here is what the Turk's cap is looking like, looking much better. After a bit of research, I had determined it had some mites on it, so I put some miticide to it, and the leaves are growing on normal again, so that's awesome to see. Took the brunt of the hail, so it completely wiped it out, and it's just growing back in now. Added a couple of new plants. Had a couple that unfortunately didn't make the hailstorm. They got damaged too badly, but that's okay. And here's some that are coming back, so it's making a good recovery. I'm pretty happy with that. Here's the test bed on the south side of the property. It's also regenerating from the hailstorm. Took a pretty good beating, as you can see by the amaryllis leaves. The crinum's coming back out though, with some new growth, so that's looking much better. The marigolds didn't get damaged too much, fortunately. The yarrow I cut back and letting it grow back fresh growth. That seems to be doing good for it. Coneflowers are recovering nicely. Sedum is blooming. Sunflowers are blooming. Looking pretty good. Had one gladiolus plant that, despite being broken in half, it still bloomed. I tied it up and helped it out. It looked pretty good. All these salvia plants have almost fully recovered and are starting to bloom again. The firebush is finally looking like it's going to do something, so happy to see that. Then of course this Turk's cap here, there's some hail damage, really shredded things up, but looking much better than it did. And even gonna have some daylilies blooming. They were hiding behind that coneflower plant. Here's a look at this section of garden. Got some black-eyed peas and cantaloupe planted here. And then these pepper plants are also recovering from the hailstorm. They got beat up pretty badly. The dill somehow made it. Got a new squash plant there. I need to start treating for squash vine borers and all that stuff to try to keep those at bay. The Roma beans are pretty well shredded up, but they're putting on a lot of new growth and a lot of new blooms, so hopefully get one more harvest out of them. The okra got flattened, so I had to replant some of that. So it's a little behind. It should all be looking about like that right there. I planted some more cucumbers down here. I left this old plant and it seems to be regenerating pretty nicely. There's some of the hail damage. Beat it up pretty badly. That was a pretty rough hailstorm. We got some new cucumbers on there and everything, so a lot of this month is just letting nature re-heal itself. And it's got some wax beans. There's some wildlife right there. That might be the one I saved out of the trash can the other day, so it knows I'm no threat. Lots of blooms on the wax beans, but the hail really did a number on them. Then here's some more okra here. I'll try to divide this out and spread it throughout a little bit more. There's some hail damaged tomatoes there. And the hail damage on the plant itself did stuff like that, but lots of new growth, lots of new bloom, so I think we're going to be okay. I've gotten a lot of tomatoes despite the hail damage. The next one got a little blight starting. These plants here have almost run their course, but I have up on the back patio some fall transplants ready to go. There are my tomato transplants for the fall. Then I started some grass transplants as well, so I will be planting those probably the first weekend in July. Here's some good tomatoes. There's a hail damaged tomato. That one will probably be okay. The hail came in from this angle, so that's the side that really got beat. The pear tomatoes, they're just coming right along. I think this is an indeterminate because it's really getting tall. There's some black-eyed peas there, just for some supplemental, in case those ones got damaged too much up there at the original part of the garden. Got a little okra planted here and there on this outer row. That one's doing pretty well. And then here are some new tomatoes since the hailstorm forming on there, so that's awesome. Got a sunflower there and an okra plant there coming up. A little bit more black-eyed peas. Here's my basil tomato combo. These here are just about run their course. There's a tomato with some hail damage, which is still perfectly edible. And there's another tomato. This here was not a very good plant. It didn't. There's one little tomato on it now, but it's gone all this time, no tomatoes. I decided to put a zinnia patch here. I think that will look good later in the summer. These cantaloupes survived the hailstorm. I've got a bunch of Roma tomatoes this year. And there's the hail damage right there on that plant. Got one nearly ripened there. Four o'clock, looks like nothing ever happened. Here's this flower bed on the south side of the house. Blanket flowers are looking good. Other than that, things are just settling in for the summer. Should have some zinnias starting to bloom pretty quick. I have sown zinnia seed several times to keep the blooms fresh and going strong. There's a few here and there. Gonna need to weed this bed pretty soon. And then there's a little bit more happening down here on this end. Zinnias are blooming, some of my early ones. Good to see. The tropical plants got shredded by the hail, of course. But they are recovering, and I have option red and an option orange now, so that's good to see. Yellow flower bed is fizzling out. I'll have to deadhead this bush, and that way it'll bloom again in the fall. Hadn't got around to it yet for decommissioning this little flower bed, but it's already full of grass, so at least that much is done for me. Need to get that root flare exposed a little bit more. Here's the flower bed at the front of the house, which is predominantly pentas. They are blooming and growing and thriving. They got set back just a little bit during the hailstorm, but not too bad. The Unimus bush is looking pretty decent. And the chrysanthemums, I have kind of deadheaded those, so hopefully those will be blooming pretty nicely in the fall. Pretty sure these have white flowers on them. And there is more wildlife. They all have their spots where they like to sit every day. I have redone the hanging baskets for the summer. They're looking nice. Nice assortment of foliage, colorful foliage. And here is hanging basket number 2. The same thing. I put those fertilizer spikes by each plant. So that's really helping them to grow and thrive. They had even a little hail damage up here on the porch. The flower bed by the mailbox is in full summer mode now with periwinkles. They're looking good. The flower bed in the middle of the front yard took a beating, but it's coming back around. Various plants. The firebush was looking great, and it got some twigs knocked out of it, so it's kind of looking spindly right now. I put in some new hardy hibiscus plants, one here and one here, as the other ones did not come back. So hopefully these will do a little better. And various plants are coming back around. These annual salvia are putting on some new buds. They pretty well got shredded in the hailstorm. I had cut these back, and they're putting on new blooms, looking much better. These really didn't get damaged too much, these coleus plants, but they're looking absolutely phenomenal. And then I've got various kinds of periwinkles planted back in here with some more pentas. And then the sunflowers got shredded up pretty badly, but they're still doing their thing. And then between hail damage and red blotch on the amaryllis, I'm going to cut those back and let them, maybe spray them with some hydrogen peroxide and let them come back out. And same thing with this coleus over here, it's looking pretty good. There's a little bit of hail damage. And then I did the same thing on that salvia plant there. They're going to be blooming back like crazy pretty soon. Just real quick, a couple weeks later, here's where we're at on this flower bed. Really looking much better. Even got a little sunflower in there. And those amaryllis are coming back with some new growth and looking wonderful. Very happy to see the progress. And those are just blooming like crazy. And here is the flower bed on the north side of the property. It's taken a beating from the hailstorm, but coming back. These are all new, these caladiums. These are a little spindly from the hail. Here's one that's damaged by hail. Looks pretty rough still, so Probably trim those off and let them come back around. These Asiatic lilies are just about done. Got a few little blooms yet. Lots of caladiums. I didn't remember planting that many, but I guess I did. Here's some shredded leaves and some new ones, so very good to see. The amethyst is going for round 2, so that's good to see. And all this stuff over here kind of took a beating, but I think it'll be alright. The lawn's doing pretty well overall. Got a little thin spot there yet, but keep going up. It looks pretty good. Here's the front lawn. Nice and full and thick, so it's doing pretty good. Here's the south side. Looks like it could use a little iron treatment, but overall looking pretty darn good. And I'll come back in the backyard and look at it from this angle. Overall, pretty good stuff. Everything's generally healthy as it can be. So once again, this has been June 2024 Garden Update. Thank you for watching.